That we face today as Republicans, as we think about the choice in front of us, we have to choose, because Republicans cannot both be loyal to Donald Trump and loyal to the Constitution.
Hi again, everyone. It is 5 o'clock in New York. I'm Alicia Menendez in for Nicole Wallace. That choice, voiced by former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, has been made loud and clear. Republicans have chosen the 4 times indicted, twice impeached former president and all he stands for over the United States Constitution. A choice made starker following Trump's heinous comments at a rally over the weekend, dehumanizing his opponents with vile language. Last night, President Biden fiercely denounced those words at a fundraiser, saying, quote, "Just the last few days, Trump has said if he returns to office, he's going to go after all those who oppose him and wipe out what he called the vermin, quote, the vermin in America, a specific phrase with a specific meaning. It echoes language you heard in Nazi Germany in the 30s. And it isn't even the first time. Trump also recently talked about, quote, the blood of America is being poisoned. The blood of America is being poisoned. Again, it echoes the same phrases used in Nazi Germany. Using the language of fascists, spreading distrust in elections, saying he will use the government to go after his enemies. All the hallmarks of an authoritarian leader. And yet Republicans, they have chosen to follow Trump down that path, choosing to side with his cruelty and his anti-democratic ways. David Rothkopf writes a chilling warning about the GOP's shift to a party openly hostile to the system of government that has defined America for nearly 2.5 centuries. Quote, "We are 1 year away from a vote that could end democracy as we know it in America. It is not inconceivable that my 1-year-old grandson might never remember what life in a democratic America was like. That is not hyperbole." Not only do Trump and the GOP leadership display open contempt for democracy, not only have they actively sought to undermine it, but recent polling suggests that a fairly substantial number of Americans actually support those views. They don't make up, quote, quite a majority of the electorate, but they do represent nearly half of all Republicans, and they could, in tight races in gerrymandered states or those where voter suppression laws are in place, produce an outcome that should make your blood run cold. Rothkopf assesses that the GOP is now an active anti-democracy party where those impulses are not just hiding in the shadows, they are openly embraced. Just take what we heard from former Senator Rick Santorum on election night last week after voters in Ohio came out strongly in favor of legalizing marijuana and enshrining abortion rights.
Thank goodness that most of the states in this country don't allow you to put everything on the ballot, because pure democracies are not the way to run a country.
And that is where we start this hour with Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, Democratic pollster and MSNBC political analyst Cornell Belcher, and Princeton University professor, distinguished political scholar, and MSNBC political analyst Eddie Glaude. It is good to see you all, Madam Secretary. Let's start with you. When I read that line about how a 1-year-old grandson may not know democracy in this country, and I think about the fact you and I have little kids, right? When you envision their future, is that what you imagine?
No. And it's not who we are. And we're really in a moment as a country, as a nation, where we all are going to have to decide who are we going to be for the next generation? Who are we going to be moving forward? That's the choice voters will be facing next year. And that's one that we have to make clear above all the noise, above all the other types of issues at play and all the candidates and all that. This is a choice over whether we're going to be a democracy for the future, for future generations, or whether we're going to abandon that principle and change who we are fundamentally forever.
Eddie, I want to make sure that we drill down on President Biden's condemnation of Trump's comments. He makes the comparison to Nazi Germany. He points out Trump saying that immigrants are poisoning the blood of this country. Trump, he wants to change the governing structure of this country, but the comment about immigrants also reminds us he wants to change the very fabric of this nation as we have known it.
Right. Remember, behind all of this, Alicia, is the notion of the great replacement theory, right? That there is this demographic shift, that white Americans are becoming a permanent minority, as it were. So there's this kind of fear and panic driving a lot of this. And let's be clear, vermin talk, blood poisoning talk, of course, we heard it in Nazi Germany, but Nazi Germany first looked to the United States. This is, I hear Madam Secretary, and what she's saying is that this is not us. But there's been a long tradition of illiberalism that has defined the American project. And we've always had to reach for our better angels when that illiberalism bubbled up, as it were. And we're in one of those inflection points. And so she's right We have to choose who we are, because the language that Donald Trump is using, he's actually reaching into a deep reservoir of grievance and hatred and fear that has defined the nation for generations, but we've kept it in check. So I think this is really, really a critical moment in terms of who we take ourselves to be.
How do you do that? How do you keep it in check?
Voters and American citizens staying engaged, not giving up, recognizing that the goal of a lot of this rhetoric is to get people to just disengage, throw up their hands and say, I don't know who to believe, I don't know what to believe, I'm not going to participate. This is the moment where we all must engage, all must lean in, participate, get others to as well, and demand that our country remain one in which we truly are protecting equal justice for all.
Cornel, there's the reality of what the Secretary has said, which is these are the stakes of this election. What's the future of this country? Do you want to continue to be a democracy? But we also know, you better than most, because you're watching all the polls, because you're sitting in focus groups, that's not necessarily the frame that voters are coming in and talking about, right? They're talking about the economy. They're talking about reproductive rights. They're talking about a smattering of issues that you could argue all tie to democracy, but that may not be the actual language that they're using. So then how do Democrats campaign? And for those who are already in elected positions, how do they govern when they have another party that is actively trying to dismantle democracy and potentially a Republican presidential frontrunner who is running on that core concept?
Well, they do tie them together, right? And I was in focus groups in Milwaukee a couple of weeks back with an African-American woman who was talking about how, reproductive, them taking away her right to decide what she does with her body is a throwback to segregation, and it's a slippery slope back to the era of Jim Crow. But our leaders have to lead, and Madam Secretary is right in this, is that we have to give them the language. We have to get out in front of them and lead them. We have to talk to them about democracy. We have to connect the dots to them rolling back, rights, voting rights, reproductive rights, and connecting that back into a broader conversation about democracy. Look, Republicans want to make this about small ball. They want to make this about fear and grievance, as a point was theirs making, But I will point out to you that someone in 2008 and 2012 turned the tables on that. And we got back-to-back majorities talking about hope, talking about the future, talking about bringing all Americans together. And look, the majority of Americans are not where Donald Trump and authoritarians are, but we got to hold that majority together. In 2016, we saw that majority deteriorate, right? We saw the third party voting happening with their disillusionment with both parties. And that is a top threat to our democracy right now is these weapons of mass distraction that you see, all over social media right now. But my fear is the majority of Americans will never support Donald Trump. They won't. But he doesn't need a majority if, in fact, the majority of Americans who are for hope, who are for democracy, are in fact divided. And that is my greatest fear going into this. When you look at the third parties and candidates, and you look at them being funded, and you look at them sort of getting a platform and doubling down on Trump's messaging about how terrible things are and how we're losing America and how dangerous America is becoming, they are helping Donald Trump. I want to play some sound for you. I'm sure you've already seen it. And it happened in the Senate yesterday. Senator Mullen of Oklahoma physically challenging the Teamsters president, who was a witness at a Senate hearing.
Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on. Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution, every poll?
No, sit down. Sit down. Look at you. You're a United States Senator.
Okay, so we've talked about that a lot, but I want to put it through this specific lens. Ruth Ben-Ghiat, who we often have on this program to talk about the lurch toward authoritarianism, she writes, when you have become a party of thugs enthralled to a violent cult leader, having normalized extremism and posed with assault rifles in your campaign ads, your collective behavior in Congress will change. We often talk about Donald Trump. There are Donald Trump's remarks. There are his saying, using the word vermin. There is his talking about how he's going to go after his political opponents. There's also all of the GOP leaders who are following in his stead.
Yeah. And gaining followers and attention because of it. I mean, a lot of what you see oftentimes in Senate hearings is very serious discussion, but there's also grandstanding. And yesterday took that grandstanding to a whole nother level on multiple fronts. And what I was actually struck by was not just what message does this send to our young people about what governing looks like, but how probably the people who are cheering us on the most right now, this dysfunction on right now, are our foreign adversaries, Russia, China, Iran, who are rooting for America to fail, who are rooting for democracy to fail. This is the type of stuff that they want voters to see so that voters give up on democracy. And instead, what we should be doing is demanding better for our leaders. I don't care what party you're from. That is inappropriate behavior in our Senate halls and in a Senate hearing. And we as voters have to start demanding more from our leaders.
You said